We are back, episode number 10, Spread Option Podcast. Brian and Nick here with you. And it was a pretty big weekend for me last weekend. Besides the Iowa failure, Nate Stanley throwing the ball 49 times, completing it 15, failing to cover in a 6-point spread, and failing to score on that final drive to win. I had a pretty good weekend. I had Oklahoma State points and money line. I hit on that Kentucky-Missouri game in the miracle where they kept pushing the ball downfield and then got the untimed down at the end of the game, and then Washington State points and money line. So that paid out pretty nicely. I did have 2 pushes on the weekend, but overall 7-4-2 in the games I told you guys about on the season, only up 4 units. But hey, we're positive. That's all that matters at this point.
I mean, imagine if it was $1 million a unit. I mean,
yeah, you're up $4 million right there.
So rather be up and down, not where you want to be, but not where you hate to be necessarily. So, props to you on that. And I can speak for myself in saying, and I let you know this during the game, that Penn State was one of my best plays. I live bet them.
Yes.
When they were down 12-0. Yes, it was, I believe, 12-0 because there was a safety involved and some other wacky shit.
It got to 14-0 after that, or 14-7, something like that, because Iowa got another safety.
Yes, Iowa recorded a second safety after I bet on Penn State. I went, here we go. But I think best play, I didn't anticipate this happening. One of the most shocking line, we got a lot of football again in a short amount of time, but I did want to mention I got the line of the season. I feel like it was, and this is going to sound crazy, it was -175, but I managed to bet the Patriots in the first half against the Derek Anderson-led Bills, parlayed with the first half Golden State Warriors at the Chicago Bulls money line, -175. For those that don't know, Klay Thompson,
yes,
10 3-pointers in the first half in a 42-point rout of a lead. At halftime, it was 92-50.
Yeah, they almost dropped the Big Mac in the first half.
Yeah, although the Patriots didn't play well, there was no spread involved. They were winning. That paid out. So Brian's, got my picks from last week written down, and
we both hit our locks. First time in a long time.
Yeah. Please, can you please refresh me what mine was? I'm trying to think.
You had New England.
It was
New England -14. I had Georgia -7.
Yeah, and as much as I had them -14 as a lock, and I truly did bet that, there was a chance for Buffalo to cover in garbage time, and throughout most of that game, Buffalo was actually driving with a chance to really cover that game, and they threw a pick six, and never got it within 19 after that. So, be frank, first ranked matchup. Do you want to just kind of dive right into it?
Yeah, let's get into it. We'll go chronologically. Number 6, Georgia survived the cocktail party, won big against Florida in Jacksonville. Their treat is another top 10 battle with number 9, Kentucky. The Wildcats, as I mentioned before, off a thrilling win at Missouri, where the offense did nothing until it had to do something. They scored a touchdown late in that game, went through a couple quarterback changes from starter to backup, back to starter. Ended up scoring on an untimed down at the 2 off a pass interference play to win 15-14, win me some money, which was nice. Georgia is 9.5-point favorites here. Kentucky's defense has been really freaking good all year.
Yeah.
They have not allowed more than 14 points twice this year. Yes, twice. 3 times.
Like in back-to-back games?
They have not done it in back-to-back games. They've done it 3 times this year. They've been really good. Georgia 9.5. I love the Dogs. I think they're going to roll through Kentucky. Kentucky's offense is just not good. They don't have a passing game, and if you key in on Benny Snell, as good as he is, there's nowhere he can go, and Georgia's got a very, very good defense.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. Letdown City, 9.5. I know this game's in Lexington, but
it's going to be wild there.
It's going to be a great atmosphere. Just unfortunately, like Georgia also plays good defense, and I mean, maybe you can make. I know it sounds crazy. Maybe you can make the argument that Kentucky's been playing a better brand of defense so far this year, but Georgia has a significantly better offense that has a chance to rise above this supposed, defensive struggle more so than Kentucky. Missouri is not known for playing defense, and the fact that it took
correct
an exceptional comeback at the end of that game for the Bulldogs for the Wildcats to pull that game out says a lot.
Yeah.
About the state of that offense. Kentucky's been good all year. Probably one of the best Kentucky team in recent memory. But Jake Fromm, that running game, I think, is going to get going. Possess the clock. Play good defense themselves. I think I'm very confident in Georgia winning this game by 2 scores. So that's my pick. I'm in agreement with you in the first game for sure.
Yeah, this is essentially the de facto SEC East title game. The winner of this will most likely play the winner, I guess you can say, of Alabama, LSU, which we'll talk about in a little bit, but we're going to go through chronologically, as I mentioned before. So the other game at 2:30 Central is going to be West Virginia, number 13, heads to Texas. Texas, tough loss to Oklahoma State, gave up 41 points. The Mountaineers, fresh off a throttling, just an absolute throttling of Baylor, 58-14 on last Thursday night. Plenty of time, plenty of rest for West Virginia. The offense looked great. I think they scored 48 points in the first half last week. I love West Virginia. It's hard for me to pick against them. They're +2 in this game. Texas is talented and they get up for these big games, but I think they've hit their limit this year. They've gotten up for so many big games, and then last week they just didn't seem to have it.
Just when you think Texas is back.
Exactly.
They're not. And Oklahoma State, they're known for having a prolific offense, but, Will Grier and Sills and company are on even another pedestal than Oklahoma State. And the fact that Texas is a dog in this game off a tough loss or the fact that West Virginia is a dog is a dog in this game off a tough loss for Texas. Sorry about that, folks.
There it is. You got it.
Yeah, makes me a firm believer in West Virginia. Love an underdog as talented as West Virginia in this game. And for a while, you're kind of thinking like crazy thoughts like, oh, my God, if Texas can ride this wave and they can get another shot to beat Oklahoma for a second time this year, like you can be talking about a magical season for Texas in Tom Herman's second year. And what do? They lay a fucking egg. And
yep.
It's all about, I think, Will Grier and Sills and company as an underdog off a game where their defense sucked against Oklahoma State. Like, I'm all about Texas in this game. Or, fuck me. I'm all about West Virginia.
There you go. Next game, 2:45, very weird start time. Penn State heads to Michigan. They're off the late win against Iowa. Trace McSorley a little banged up in that one. Didn't play particularly well. The defense was okay for Penn State. Yeah. Michigan's defense has been on another level pretty much since the Notre Dame game this year. They're number 5. They've still got a shot at the playoff. They control their own destiny. They win out. They're in the Big Ten title, and I don't see them losing to a team like Northwestern, who currently holds the Big Ten West lead. So it's Michigan's to lose. We saw a team in the Big Ten go into the Big House and get absolutely throttled. That was Wisconsin. Can Penn State fare any differently? 10.5-point underdogs are the Nittany Lions.
I'm going to come out and say that I think Michigan wins this game, but I think 10.5 is kind of a crazy spread based on recent history. Like, this is still a very good Penn State team. Trace McSorley is still a good quarterback. Yes, even a banged-up Trace McSorley. I mean, they're a pretty experienced squad. I just think expecting Michigan to win this game by 11 when you've seen Michigan get in kind of a struggle this year against some really quality teams. I know they're playing well, but it's just hard for me to imagine Penn State just going in there and losing by like, 2 touchdowns or something. Like, I mean, this is going to take a 2-touchdown type win for Michigan to cover that spread. So I actually think Michigan should be the favorite. They're playing better. But, Harbaugh, really and truly, he's had trouble in these big games, and everything's kind of going Michigan's way. They've had a pretty fortuitous stretch since they lost a tough one by a touchdown in the first game of Notre Dame. And I think Penn State's poised to cover 10.5. I mean, that half point honestly really makes the difference in the world to me. Like, I mean, Michigan could win this game by 2 scores and not cover. I think Penn State's way too experienced and talented to just go in there and kind of get like pile drive. So I actually like Penn State. I don't know how you go in this game, but that's my opinion.
I'm taking Michigan. I think Shea Patterson's been the better quarterback. I think Michigan's got the better defense that can force Penn State to be one-dimensional. And at this point in the year, you want to make Trace McSorley throw the ball because he just hasn't thrown it well at all. If you can force them off the ground, then all of a sudden Michigan's got a chance to force turnovers and make big plays. Karan Higdon is the better of the 2 running backs in this game. I think Shea Patterson is playing better than Trace McSorley, but I think McSorley is more talented. Defensively, it's a landslide in Michigan's favor. The only thing that scares me is a garbage time touchdown here to pull the back door, but I'm taking Michigan minus 10.5. I'm comfortable at that number.
All right.
And the final game of the night, the biggest probably of the year up to this point, we alluded to it earlier. Number 1 Alabama heads to Death Valley, taking on LSU, 7-1 Tigers, number 3 in the country. 14.5-point spread in favor of the Crimson Tide. Tua has a nagging knee injury. He should be good to go. Has not played in the fourth quarter yet this year. Will he play in the fourth quarter this year, and who do you like in this one?
Do you guys know at home how fucking good Alabama has to be 14.5-point favorites in this game? I mean, this line is like, this is an unbelievable line. Like, I mean, you're talking about the number 1 team in the nation or number 3 team in the nation. Like, with a quarterback who's got a 25-0 TD to touchdown ratio, I believe. The stats in front of me are correct. I mean, this is a unbelievably wild line. I know Tua's. I know this is going to sound insane. I think Bama wins this game by about 17-21. I think the spread's actually right on. And I know, Bama has not covered every game this year, but those are some like absurd spreads. Bama has thoroughly outplayed their opponent every single game, and I just am not convinced Joe Burrow can, against this Alabama defense, I'm not convinced he can maintain. I mean, the half point is certainly significant here because, I mean, it's a lot easier to think Bama can win by 2 touchdowns versus 3 scores. So Vegas knows what they're doing with that extra half point. But, I mean, like, the thing you got to think about is, like, if you don't take Bama minus 14.5, would you rather have LSU plus 14.5? And in my opinion, I don't feel comfortable enough in the LSU offense against the Bama defense to do that. And I think it's as simple as that.
I agree with that. I will say LSU has just gotten up to play every single one of these games. Every time I expect them to be out, they've found a way. Their defense is really good, and they've got a really good run game. If they can get to Tua, all of a sudden, you've got Jalen Hurts in the game. He's not as explosive offensively, and this 14.5-point spread looks way easier. That's a lot to ask. However, it is a night game. It is Death Valley, and it is pretty much for the season for LSU. I put a lot of stock in that, and that's why I'm going to take the Tigers plus 14.5. I really could see this game being a 14-point game and being very thankful for that half point. But it's hard to pick against. It's hard to pick against a home team like LSU in an environment like theirs with the season on the line.
Yeah, 100% agree. Like that half point, I know. I mean, it's gambling, and a lot of times they try to make these lines, obviously, about 50-50 and or bait you into taking it a certain way. But yeah, I mean, the spread's really tough. But the way we've seen Bama just dominate teams this year, I mean, it's going to suck if they don't cover, based on the fact that's my pick. But it's just hard to bet against Bama.
Right. You don't get rich betting against Alabama. I'm going to run through the rest of my card real quick. It's pretty short this week. I like it a lot, though. I'm taking Louisville plus 39 at Clemson. I'm also taking the over. I feel like that's a combo that you cannot lose. You can't lose both of, and naturally it's going to end 59-0. I've also got Army -7 against Air Force. That's actually my lock of the week. The Knights are playing really good football right now. Air Force has not played great of late, and it's at Army, I believe. So I like Army in that one. They are clearly the best service academy this year. Georgia Southern -7 at Louisiana Monroe. Georgia Southern 7-1, and they run that funky triple option that no one seems to be able to stop. The defense is pretty good too. I've got Utah -7 at Arizona State. The Utes into the top 20. They're actually number 16 or 15 right now. I can't remember off the top of my head. They've been playing really well. They've got, I think this game would clinch the Pac-12 South title for them. So they're playing for the chance at a postseason berth. Washington State -10 at home against Cal. Cal beat Washington last week 12-10. They just don't score. Washington State scores. Give me the Cougs at home. They're a top 10 team right now. They're playing for their playoff lives. I love that pick, and that is my card for the week.
Damn. That's, I think based on your rationale and the exact picks you have, I honestly have a hard time arguing against any of those. Clemson is just an absolute wagon. That game against Florida State, I was just live betting them every way to Sunday last week. And against trying to think who they were playing. Florida State.
Florida State, yep.
Yeah, it was unbelievable how well they were playing. I kind of looking through the lines. I did bet on some action last night. I took Buffalo live -4.5.
Nice.
It was a nice
little winner.
I have a revisionist history. Wish I would have just put more down because I just knew that was going to cover, but it wasn't. I like Michigan State this week, and
really,
yeah, I think there's a lot of bullshit going around with Maryland, and I think they didn't necessarily have the best warm-up this week to play a team like Michigan State, and Michigan State had a nice emotional victory at home against Purdue in a really tight game where they kind of blew it open right at the end. I just think Michigan's a much better team, and there's just too much bullshit going on around Maryland. I know a lot of people will say maybe they'll rise up, together because of something like this. But I think Michigan State's like a significantly better team, and I know the quarterback play hasn't been superb so far, but I don't know. I just have a hard time. I think if you get Michigan State in a teaser and you can push them to a +2 scores, I think that's a nice play there. I think Georgia, outright is another one of my picks. I think UK's in for a letdown. Sometimes we've talked about intangibles. Kentucky, props to them on a nice season, but are we really going to sit here and believe Kentucky's going to win this game at home against Georgia?
Right. It might be a close first half. That might be something to look at, like a first half line with Kentucky if it's a big spread.
Right. I just see one of these things at the end where Georgia, at worst case scenario for the Bulldogs, they kind of pull away at the end. Like I actually think this game actually could be one of the most disappointing games of the weekend because I just don't see a way Kentucky's offense can make this a winnable game.
Yeah, it kind of feels like the worst top 10 matchup we've had in a while.
Yeah, I don't know why. It just seems like a significant to me. Yeah, I think another game, I wouldn't bet it outright, but I think is everyone that listens know I've been pretty consistent. I'm a teaser guy. I think if I like Notre Dame, you get them down in a 7-point teaser to about 2.5. Get Georgia down around the same price and give Penn State a little wiggle room. I think we're kind of cooking there. As far as outright lines, I'm trying to think, man. Yeah, it's like a small card for me as well. But I honestly think Stanford, that's kind of criminal that they're plus 10 after the week Washington had. That seems kind of crazy to me. I don't know if you agree with that.
It's tough because both teams are off tough losses.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know what Washington showed last week or this season to say that they're 10 points better than Stanford. If anything, Stanford showed that they can score with Washington State, who's one of the best offenses in the country. And their defense isn't going to play that poorly all the time. Not to mention, Bryce Love didn't even play very well. I think he had 5 total carries.
I know the money is at betting the spread or, a money line on an underdog. But, just think if you include them in a teaser and you're getting them to plus 17, plus 20 range.
Right.
It's hard to imagine Stanford after that performance by Washington to Washington should be the favorite, but
another game out west I was looking at real quick. Colorado blew a 31-3 lead last week against Oregon State, and they're only 3 point under Arizona. Played well this year, but they're coming off a blowout win against Oregon at home.
Yeah. What's Herbert's status this week? Do we know?
He threw 50. Khalil Tate is back and playing pretty well.
Okay. But Oregon's playing UCLA is my only question.
Right.
Because UCLA is pretty dog shit. Just didn't know if Herbert was going to be back and playing because that's another team I think if you get them 10.5's maybe a stretch, but get them down against a bad UCLA team. Obviously it's the return of Chip Kelly and all this shit, but up there. But I don't know. Something about Justin Herbert against that UCLA team doesn't make me too nervous. I don't know, something about it. But yeah, not a big card. Definitely got some NFL opinions, though, if you want to jump into that, unless you have anything else you want to mention.
Yeah. People might be wondering why we give so much time to the Pac-12, because that's the late night where you chase. Those are the games that are on later. I know Arizona's on Friday night, so that could be the early game, but there are games, those Pac-12 games, they play late at night because they're out west, and that's how time zones work. If you're chasing or you're feeling good and you want to lay down some extra coin, those are the games you do it.
Yeah.
My favorite plays in the NFL, real quick, I'm going to run through them. Bears-Bills over 37. Nathan Peterman looks like he's going to get the start. He's either going to play really well against the Bears or he's going to throw a ton of picks. Either way, Trubisky's going to have to score. I think 37 is criminally low for this game. I see it ending somewhere like 28-17. That gets us to 45. That's a winner there. Washington minus 1.5 at home against Atlanta. I cannot peg the Falcons at all this year, but the Redskins are somehow 5-2, and I'm going to ride with that. Detroit at Minnesota. I'm going to take the Vikings minus 5. I think the Vikings are ready to turn it around. They kind of have to at this point in the season. Chargers plus 1.5 at Seattle. Seattle stinks. I don't know how they beat Detroit as badly as they did last week, but this seems like a free money line. And Houston pick them over Denver. I don't know how much Demaryius Thomas is going to play, but that spark, I think, is enough to give Houston an extra edge in the game.
You're actually +1 now. I don't know what that
really
of difference that makes, but Houston is +1.
Wow.
On the road at 3-6 Denver. So, Yes. We actually have two. Do you have any pulse on the back-to-back games? You got the America's Game of the Week and the Sunday Night Football game this week, which are each pretty exceptional. You have LA at New Orleans late afternoon, and then Green Bay at New England. New Orleans is a 1.5-point home favorite, and New England is now opened as a touchdown favorite. It's now 5.5. So the public, believe it or not, is all over the Packers after a strong performance at Los Angeles. We'd also be remiss not to mention Todd Gurley. I think we both probably agree here. Was obviously the smart play, but
yes.
If you had that game a certain way,
it sucked. Yeah. Fortunately, we did not, but it was the smart play. I would lean.
I'm a Packer fan, as many people know, and I live bet Green Bay. When the Green Bay was up 7-0 early in the game, I took them plus 3.5. So that was kind of my luck of the week, was him. If I bet, if you bet them live or if you bet them before the game, you probably had them because they were kind of up in the beginning. And they were still kind of an underdog, and then they went down 10. So it was probably a similar line to where the game started. And then it got kind of back on course a little bit, but that was pretty unbelievable.
Yeah.
A lot of fantasy. I won a fantasy game. Not that anyone gives a shit, but that's not what we talk about. But I won a fantasy game by a point this week against a coworker, and that was all because Ty Gurley took that knee.
That's awesome.
100% true.
In these games, though, I would lean New Orleans minus 1.5, and if it's down to 5.5, New England. If it's anything over 6 or more, I'd take Green Bay.
Yeah, I hate to say it, but
the defense just isn't there. It's just not. And Tom Brady's going to be able to pick them apart because he does what Aaron Rodgers does and takes those short routes.
What's the over-under in this game? Because that's where my brain is going.
56.5.
Yeah, the over-under was a tough play last week if you had that. That also just this. If you had LA and the over, as far as
that was devastating.
God, I'm so sorry. From the bottom of my heart, I'm sorry. But I also had Packers live money line plus 300, which was Cuck City. But yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I actually like New Orleans at home in the Dome.
So do I.
Hard for me to bet against them there. I actually think they play some sneaky good defense, and they have enough guys to get after the quarterback. And, as someone who watches a lot of Green Bay Packers football, I know that we don't have nearly one of the best pass rushers in the league. And they got after Jared Goff, actually, with pretty good consistency, and they kind of threw him off his game. And, the Saints have, guys like Davenport and Jordan and company that can kind of get after the quarterback and some solid corners. So I actually believe in them at home in a raucous atmosphere with a little bit of a better pass rush. And a guy like Kamara that Green Bay doesn't utilize a guy like Aaron Jones the way Sean Payton utilizes a guy like Alvin Kamara. So and you're probably like, what the hell are you talking about? But Aaron Jones, pretty damn explosive guy. He's probably top 5 in the league right now in yards per carry. If you don't know him, get to know him. He's probably a good prop bet option. But yeah, I know I like them. And, Green Bay at New England is, as much as Green Bay played well, you just can't trust that defense enough to think they're going to cover under a touchdown right now in a tough environment and against a great offense like New England. So, even as much as they didn't look so sharp against the Bills for about 3.5 quarters, got to go with New England, as much as I hate to say it.
What is your play of the week in the NFL as we close up?
Play of the week in the NFL? So I actually, personal play of the week is something I mentioned last episode, is teasing the Monday Night Football game with the look-ahead lines. So right now I've got New England -4.5 in a teaser with Golden State, who beat the Bulls very soundly. And I have the Chiefs +2 as the last leg of that. But as far as a standalone line that I really like, I honestly think it's Kansas City, which is one of the bigger spreads of the week. But
yeah,
they're just significantly better. Like,
they are.
I mean, they're just putting up a shit ton of points. And Cleveland's made some trades, and they're just off a new coaching firing. And there's just a lot of shit going on around there. And the Chiefs are fucking rolling. I mean, they lost to New England, but they put up 40 points in that game. Like, that offense scores a lot, and I like Baker, and I think the Browns have a promising future. But they're still the Browns. So I'm all about the Chiefs kind of first half. If they don't cover that, I think at least at the end they pull away. So I think I'm all about that. And I think Fitzmagic is due for a blowout this weekend.
All right.
So
those are the big picks. As always, you'll hear us every week.
Lock of the week, though, is Georgia.
Yeah.
Lock of the week is Georgia. I don't know if I mentioned that outright, but lock of the week is Georgia for sure.
Love it. So you've got Georgia. I've got Army.
Yep.
Good luck this weekend, everybody. Nick will be talking to you, and let's win some live bets too.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me on, buddy.